Kevin Systrom of Instagram and Alexia Tsotsis of TechCrunch are up now. Instagram, huge success.
Second year in a row you mess up my name. Alexia.
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 Hello, Kevin. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Louis.
So,
how many of you in the audience have an app on your phone that allows you to share a photo? All right, all of you. How many of you have Instagram on your phone?
I like how many hands I see.
All right, well, that's amazing. So, Kevin, Instagram just hit 14 million users, most of which are probably in this audience. 50 photos uploaded a second over Thanksgiving. You're at the height of your scale, right?
Well, when I look at our scale, from the day we launched, we were always beating our target numbers. Being at a place where you're uploading nearly 60 photos per second, we look at it as a high water mark for about a week, and then we end up beating that again. What really excites me about what we're doing is that we're only at really, the tip of where we want to be. We're only at the start. And, we may be having this conversation next year, and I hope we are, well more than double that. Every day we wake up, we see bigger numbers, and it's exciting to see people signing up for Instagram at the rate they are. And I think it's a testament to, building a solid product that solves a problem that people, have. So
you started your career at Odeo, which eventually turned into Twitter. It was a podcasting service. You're actually at Kevin on Twitter, which is pretty cool. Is there anything that you learned at Odeo that you've taken with you into Instagram?
Yeah, so I think the thing I learned at Odeo is that great companies and products come from great teams. And it's part of why we've stayed so lean at Instagram for so long. I think the really interesting thing about Instagram's growth in the last, say, 2 months is that we've actually now doubled. We're going to be 10 people, in about a month. And that's a big step change for a small company. But what I saw at Odeo was that it was so clear that the people at that company were very talented. And even though the product we were working on at that time didn't go anywhere, it was clear that Twitter was going to. So going through that experience really taught me it's about team and not necessarily just about the first idea you work on. That also, is true when you look at what we were doing before Instagram when we were working on Bourbon. Bourbon was very much an entry product that didn't get very much traction. So in many ways, the two experiences paralleled each other.
What was your darkest moment with Bourbon, where you're like, this is not going to work, I have to scrap it and go back to law school or go work at Google or Facebook?
Yeah, I'm not sure that there was a dark moment. In fact, I think that's actually what kills most startups, is the lack of a dark moment, right? Because you keep going and you keep going and you go sideways. You're not going up, you're not going down, you just kind of go sideways. You get a trickle of users in, you're working on something that excites people, but not that much. And the hardest part about going from Bourbon to Instagram was actually realizing that we had to do something new. And making that decision was one of the hardest parts of my entrepreneurial career.
So photo sharing, you weren't the first people doing it. You weren't the first people to do filters. Honestly, how many normal people do you think use photo sharing? You think it's a huge market in terms, do you think it's mainstream, or do you think it's the people who are sitting there with their DSLR photos and uploading them into the app?
Right, so, photo sharing at the base of it is something that everyone can do. What I like about what we're doing is that we're not necessarily inventing a new behavior, right? Taking a photo is something everyone in the world does, whether you have an iPhone or you don't have an iPhone, whether you have a disposable camera that you bought at a corner store, or you have one of these big DSLRs, right? Instagram merely makes it easier to produce really beautiful photographs and share them instantly with your friends. That is something that had never been done the right way in mobile. And I think we happened to launch right when the iPhone 4 came out. And that was a big step because it had a better camera, it had a better display, and network speeds were just at the point. We forget that the first iPhone launched with Edge only, right? So network speeds were at the point that could support downloading photos. And I think we're going to see the same step change in the future with video. And when I look at what Instagram is doing, I think to myself, what we're doing is capturing a natural behavior that people have and simply making it easier. And I'm really excited about the direction we're going, and I think the numbers behind Instagram speak for that.
So what do you think of Path's redesign?
I think it's beautiful. I mean, they have a really talented team of designers and engineers, and I've always been an admirer of those guys, so I'm really excited for them.
So Hipstamatic was doing filters. How would you react if Facebook tomorrow just flipped a switch and said we're doing filters, or even Apple?
Sure. So, I mean, to some extent, filters have always been available. And I think a lot of people initially, when they thought of Instagram, thought of filters only, right? But at the base of it, Instagram is not just about filters. And it's not the core competency that we have. It's not the defensible asset. The way I look at Instagram's defensible asset is the community. Nowhere else will you find, say, almost 15 million users now really passionate and excited about sharing their photos publicly. We're creating this rich visual history of the world, this big corpus of visual data together. And even though some people may share small moments of their day at a cafe with a friend, we also see really big events like the riots in London, right, broadcast on Instagram. So to me, it's not just about the filters. The filters get people taking more photos because everyone wants to take better photos. But at the end of the day, it's really about the network that we're building, and that's what excites me.
So let's say every single person who wanted to share photos got on Instagram and everyone was sharing photos. Where would you take it from there? You really think that that kind of a narrow focus can eventually have either monetize or do something other than get talent acquired?
Right. So Instagram is really about disrupting media, right? When you look at what we're doing every single day with photos, you think to yourself, well, how can I tune into the world, right? Like, how can I see what's happening in the world around me? And I think Twitter obviously shares a lot of the same DNA, right? And we're just doing it visually. And when I talk about Instagram, I like to talk about it as disrupting media because I truly do believe in the future to understand what's happening in the world, whether it's through your friend's eyes or at a wedding that you can't attend, or a big event happening halfway across the world, you're going to be tuning in with your mobile device, right? And I think Instagram is simply the start of something very big in media. And that's where we're going with that. So it's not simply just about photo sharing.
So there was a point with Facebook where Zuck was this kid, and he had this service that was rapidly scaling. And everyone's like, wow. And amazing in growth numbers. I mean, the story of tech is a story of growth. And then he went from being someone who was great, who was a great CEO for a kid, to someone who was just a great CEO. And Facebook turned into, from a service that was just growing really rapidly, into what it is today. How far away do you think you are from that with Instagram? Like, what's your future look like? 5-year plan or 1-year plan? Or
yeah.
You were at the Goldman conference, so.
Instagram is not grown up yet. We are very much at the point where Facebook was when there were colleges only, right? And at that point, a lot of people looked at Facebook and they said, well, it's a college-only social network. So where does it go from there? But if you take a step back and you look at the larger idea of Facebook, and I'll bring this over to Instagram for a second, when you look at the larger idea for Instagram, it goes much more beyond simply just filtering photos on an iPhone, right? We have Android to launch. We have web to launch, right? We have all these other.
When is the Android launching?
That's right. So we have all these other platforms to hit going forward. We're merely at the tip of what I think we can do. And what's really exciting is even though we are iPhone only, we have nearly 15 million users, right? That's a really exciting start, and I think it bodes well for the future. And it gives us the opportunity to grow up into a very successful, interesting, meaningful, worldwide changing company. And that's what I'm excited about for our future.
So did you read that essay, the free user versus the paid user? Like 15 million users costs, right? Costs a lot, and you're at 2 million users an employee with 7 employees or 6 employees. Do you think you'll get to a point where you'll have to put ads in a stream, or you'll have to get users to sign up so you can just afford this level of scale?
So, sure. I mean, obviously, we didn't start a business to not make money, right? And really, our focus right now is on growing the network. Because I think if history has shown us anything in the social networking space, you really need to build up the network, or no advertiser cares. What excites me most about the last few months on this side of things is how many brands sign up every single day. We see folks like Burberry, Kate Spade, Audi, right? All these folks signing up organically. And they're doing beautiful things on the platform. They're sharing pictures of their products. They're sharing the message of their brands through our platform. And I think that just shows that we're at the beginning of what will come with brands. And I think the advertising experience on Instagram is going to be extremely engaging, whereas it's much harder, say, through text, right? But you know, at the same time, we're growing the network, and I don't think we're concentrated on that yet.
So how far away are we time-wise from an Android app or whatever you want to answer, a web interface? Right.
So the great news is that we have 2 people working on Android right now.
Or
I should say, we just hired one person who's the director of mobile at Koala, working on their Android app. He'll be working at Instagram. And then also, one of our current employees is working on the Android app as well. What I can say is it's very exciting, right? I'm excited to be able to address an entirely new market and see our numbers that are staggering as they are today, nearly double. That will be a really exciting time.
How many people do you plan on hiring to support this new infrastructure? Like, right. You want to be, right now you're a 6-person company. You want to be a 20-person company?
So I like to say when building,
company?
Right. So when you're building a team, I don't think it should be about, filling headcount. You shouldn't say, I'm going to go out there and try to be a 50-person company or something. What we've done so far, I think, has worked very well, which is we find the best people in the world, the best designers, the best engineers, and that's who we bring on, right? And I think we'll continue doing that. At some point, you start talking in scale. If you have 25,000 employees, you can talk about, oh, we need another 100 in the sales group or whatever, right? But for us, it's really about picking the exact positions on the field that we want to fill and finding the best people to fill those. And so far, I think we've been very lucky at that.
Where do you think, because I wrote in a post that I thought that Apple should buy Instagram. I think it would be a really easy, quick way to get some social juice into whatever they're trying to do that's not a failure. Like Ping, Instagram's awesome. I'm addicted to it. I post like 4 photos a day, and that's being really busy. What do you think Apple is doing wrong with regards to their social stuff and iPhoto, and what do you think they could do better, and how do you think you would fit in as a possible acquisition target or friend?
So, when I look at what Apple does and when I look at what Facebook does and Twitter and photos is very much the common element that ties us together, right? Because I think it's a fundamental, basic need of humans to record their lives, right? And it really segments the market. When you look at what Apple does, they're really about, the base consumer experience. What do I do with the photos on my device? How do I share them across devices? It's not necessarily about social networking, and I think that's completely fine because, they sell phones, right? And they do a fantastic job at that. I think what they've done with their platform is open up the platform to others that are going to specialize, right? And for us, that's about creating a platform upon which people can share these photos publicly. And it's worked wonderfully, and we have a great relationship with those guys. I think we'll be a pretty independent company going forward just because we have a lot to accomplish. Now, whether or not that means teaming up with folks in the future, I don't know, right? But I'm excited about going to work every day and realizing the vision that we have.
So why'd you choose iOS first?
So iOS was really, honestly, it was because we were all iOS users. I'm sure if everyone walked in, on the first day with an Android phone, we probably would have done Android. That being said, the screen and the photo on, the camera on the iPhone 4 really was a turning point. It was really disruptive in mobile. And I think that someone had to come along and take advantage of that disruption. And I'm glad that we happened to launch right when they launched.
Awesome. Thank you, Kevin.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.